Okay, here we go. Time to turn on the camera. Good morning. Welcome to Creative Coffee, where I drink vast amounts of coffee and try to say something profound without embarrassing myself. We haven't done that yet, well, at least with the not embarrassing myself part. Anyhow, I'm coming to you a little bit later than normal on the East Coast because I am now in Mountain Time and trying to come to you at 8:30 or 9:30 in the morning on the East Coast. Way too early on the weekend for me, so we're going to see how it does being pushed back. I am now kind of try to aim for 9:30 in the morning Mountain Time. Weird saying I'm in Mountain Time. Which will be probably about 11:30, so just in time for lunch or brunch time in Atlanta or on the East Coast. So anyhow, let's see, what do we got today? I am mostly getting settled into the new studio. I moved my studio from Atlanta to Colorado, and I am acclimating myself to being at 8,500 feet above sea level. Atlanta's at 1,000, so at least it wasn't from sea level. Atlanta is one of the highest, if not highest, major metropolitan city. Not counting Asheville, if you count Asheville or not. I'm not sure if Asheville... Well, I'm not sure what elevation Asheville is at. What elevation is Asheville? Elevation of Asheville. Oh, it is definitely higher than Atlanta. But there's a lot of debate if... I don't know. I mean, Asheville is a good-sized town. I mean, is it a major metropolitan area? Does it have a rail system? What defines them? I don't know. Anyhow, I am now coming to you from 8,500 feet above sea level. So it has taken a little bit of adjustment, but doing okay. I'll be honest with you, it's just so beautiful out here. I mean, everywhere you go, it's just gorgeous. And, you know, if I'm feeling, you know, my work is pretty intense a lot of times. So, especially on the architectural side. So it's nice to be able to just get out of the house and then you're just thrown into, you know, the Rocky Mountains. And it's a nice stress relief, you know, doing a lot more walking than I usually do. Or I go for a drive, you know, I pick a road and I go, let's go look down that way this time. And I'll go for about 30 minutes in that direction. So, but what do we got going on today? I am trying, see if I get this right. Nope. Why don't windows ever go back the way that they were? There we go. I think that's better. So I'm still working on these two bighorns. I am trying to finish this up this week. This is my first... well, I mean, the mural that I'm doing here is my first official piece of art, Colorado artwork. This is sort of like the first piece that I am making available as prints. So And I'm still working on the shading. Probably, let's work on this horn. I mean, when you look at it from far away, you know, ultimately you're going to be looking at it here, you know, at this resolution. And it looks pretty good. I mean, when you get in, you can see the scratchiness of scratchiness of the line work, which, you know, a lot of what I do with the digital painting is like pulling the light and the shadow and the color out of the photograph. Like what I'm doing is I'm taking my photography and I'm bringing in and I'm doing digital painting on top of it. And what I'm doing is you can see a lot of the scratch work where I'm just roughly, really quickly feeling like putting in colors where it needs to be, what I'm trying to pull out in the image. And ultimately to come back with my little sort of smudge tool and start working it in and making it look a little bit more seamless, like filling in some of this. And disable that. But yeah, I'm also working with a new camera angle. The camera angle that I used to use for these at my old studio had a good background that you can look at. I try to set it up the same way that I had it in the old studio, and you were just kind of looking at the ceiling here, and I'm trying to find a better way to do the camera angles. I'm also very impressed that I can, through the computer and using my hotspot on my phone as Wi-Fi, that I can do this. A lot of what I have been trying to do over, you know, well, through the pandemic and up until this point in time, is a lot of what I'm trying to do is make myself very mobile, where I can do my work and I can do my job and I can broadcast like this from anywhere I go. You know, ultimately I'm gonna be on, I hate that I have to get Starlink, but there's really nothing else out there that's better right now. And I hate that I have to kind of suck it up and use them, but they got a good product, and I have to remember that Elon Musk isn't the whole company. He's just the poster boy for it, which I kind of really, at this point, see Elon Musk as just being a poster boy for middle school antics. I mean, the problem I have with Elon Musk is his childish behavior doesn't get out of the way long enough for me to appreciate his genius. All right, if the man would just stop being a dunce cap and just, you know, and be a personality and just be the genius that he is. And he just wastes a lot of my time listening to him. So I think he's a genius. I think he's blah, blah, blah. But I don't really care to listen to him talk. And I think he kind of lives in a little snow globe inside of his head. But anyhow, what can I say? I'm not the richest person in the world. I don't know, is that profound enough for everybody? More. Let's take it to 12. Is 11 enough? What is going on? All right. Adobe Photoshop is being stupid. So the idea that I'm trying to do here is I do this scratchiness over the image, you know, in the tones and in the directions of light and shadow that I wish to bring it. And then I come back in with a little bit of a smudge tool and just kind of try to blend it in a little bit. But I try to leave some of the scratchiness too, because, I mean, things only stay new for that first day. Everything ends up with scratches. So, I mean, a lot of this is overkill. You're not going to really see it at the resolution, but I still like doing it because it's just very cathartic, where you come in here and you just blend in. Problem with working on multiple layers. What layer are you on? Photoshop is being really weird. Must be all of that AI stuff that they're adding to it. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Layers can sometimes be your friend, and they can also sometimes be very, very frustrating when you start having a lot of them. And you have to kind of bounce back and forth. I'm still getting used to this. I'm used to the camera being here where I can actually look at you when I'm drawing. Problem is, I like this camera angle this way, but the problem is when I start working, you start looking at the top of my head. That's why I like the camera down here, but in my new studio, when I do that, you're kind of looking up at this, like, I don't have a good angle for it. So, I'm going to have to experiment. I also am not on my ultimate final desk, which would be a little bit lower when I'm doing this. I'm a little bit higher. So, anyhow. What can you do? But yeah, I'm settling in out here. You know, I had a little batch of loneliness 2 days ago. You know, because I kind of, I mean, I know people out here in Colorado, you know, people that I've met out here and people that I know from Atlanta that have moved out here. But I'm still, my community for me is still back in Atlanta, and it's going to take, you know, at least the rest of the year for that to slowly shift over. And I'll never lose my community in Atlanta. It's just finding more of a sense of grounding and community here in Colorado. You know, it's just going to take some. So I got to remember and push myself is when I start feeling a sense of loneliness, like out here, which does happen. I mean, it's not like I'm really good and solid being alone. You know, it's that 10% of the time that it kind of creeps in and you're like, oh my God, I moved out into the middle of the mountains and in the middle of the country. You know, I've never lived this far west before. And, you know, there's always those moments where the emotion kind of percolates up to the surface. And I have to remind myself that when I feel those like emotions starting to creep in, to do something about it, and rather than letting it fester. And you know, what I've been doing is when they start to hit, you know, I go outside and, you know, I take a walk, or you know, I say hello to somebody. And it could be as simple as just saying hello to somebody that, like, you know, is your neighbor that you're just meeting for the first time. Um, but that can be scary too. You know, I know it's hard to, you know, make that jump. But in the end, I really needed. I really feel like I needed a change. I've been in Atlanta for 34 years and I love Atlanta. You know, I will fight for Atlanta as long as I fight for where I came from in New Jersey. I'm originally from New Jersey, lived 34 years in Atlanta, and they will always be special to me. But it's just it was time. It was time to start another phase, and I am doing it. What's driving what I'm doing is my artwork and my art form and my creative side, because I'm going to be doing what I'm doing. I've been doing this for architecture 30 years, painting for 20 years. I'm going to be doing this till I die. I don't think I could stop, even if you made me, like, forced me to. Well, thank God we don't live in a country like that. But, you know, it's when I chose this space, this place out here, it's what is going to fuel and feed what I need to be able to do what I need to do for the next 15 years. And just, you know, Atlanta just wasn't doing it anymore. In a way, it was Atlanta's very very distracting. But here, like, I feel like I can focus a lot more the way that I need to. Basically, yeah. So basically, my whole move to Colorado is being driven by finding the best place to do my work for this next phase of my life, and to do it comfortably, and, you know, to be able to focus on it with the least amount of disturbances, um, or temptations. You know, it's I I know people don't, like, think I'm crazy when I say this, but Atlanta winters are just too short for me. I mean, I get 3 weeks of winter, and then early February, 70 degrees is popping out, and I'm just like, no, I just got comfortable. And because I do most of my best work, I do in the winter time, when, you know, there's no fear of missing out. There's no FOMO of anything out there. Well, out here there's going to be skiing, so I don't know how that's going to work, but, you know, we'll deal with that. I need to get on the slopes to begin with. But I kind of look at my year-long process workflow on a seasonal basis, and not necessarily on this consistent trying to go full throttle every day, 24/7, 365, but try to, like, I've done that for decades, and it just leads to burnout going at, you know, at that speed. And on with the creative cycles, for at least for myself, being able to have the winter where I focus on the new stuff, the stuff that's on the frontier, the cutting edge, you know, just that stuff that I'm out there, and I can focus and create the new stuff, and then be able to, in the spring, bring it out to, you know, exhibit to everybody, you know, into the summer, and then take a little break in the summer where, you know, I, like, take August where I just shut the engines off, and then I just replenish the fuel, and just, try to relax a moment. And then in the fall, it's about getting things ready for the projects that I want to work on through the winter to be able to have done for the following season. And it's taken a while, taken a few years to kind of settle into that workflow, but here I think is going to do. Here's where the real test comes from. The real test is going to be is all of my planning and sort of means and methods of doing things. Is this going to work? This winter, we're going to find out. I've promised to give myself a full year here. And I'm just very grateful that I am moving here in the beginning of the summer and not the beginning of the winter. Because I'm going to need a lot more jeans and I'm going to need a lot more sweaters. You see, this is the stuff. I mean, it's tedious, but sometimes it's just really nice and meditative and cathartic where I can just kind of get lost in it. And kind of pull out, see how it looks. I wonder. It's kind of, there we go. A lot of it is just cleaning. I mean, it's funny when you look at a piece like this. You can, somebody that doesn't see what I see inside my head is like, well, it looks done. Yes, it looks done. I mean, it could be done if I wanted it to be, but there's still stuff I want to explore in this. And a lot of it is exploring how the shape of the horns, being get them right, clean up some of the line work, It's not necessarily perfectionism, it's just keeping your artwork tidy, keeping it clean and consistent. And, and this is different for every artist. There's a certain level of completion that we try to get our pieces to have a sense of, okay, it's done. And it's a kind of mixture of a level of professionalism, of like how solid and crisp and professional do we want it to look, how professional we want to be, but also not so rigid and tight-edged. Having a little bit of the chaos and the scratchiness, your voice, being able to get it to the level where you feel like your voice is being expressed. And a lot of times when we're working on the paintings, it's, or music or anything creative, it's, what might look like being done to the creator, it's like still singing with a scratchy voice and not being at the full sort of flow that you typically are, you want to be at. There's what's enough to get your job done, and then there's enough that takes it over the edge to the top shelf level where it's the pure expression of the artist's voice and the artist trying to take it to that level and get it to that level. I mean, technically, I can just say this is done, send it to the printer, print prints of it, but and it would be fine. But then for me, I see all these areas in it that I wish I would have worked on a little bit further. So it's like, where do you find that balance between working on something forever and being done with it? And it's different for every artist. It's really about how is your voice flowing through the piece? Do you feel like your voice is being expressed in the piece? And do you know what your voice is? You have to know what your voice is, or at least to the edge of like finding and discovering. Because a lot of times we do this artwork in a sense of trying to find our voice and our place. It's all of it is multifaceted. It's all multifaceted. And how long have I been going? I've been going 30 minutes. All right. I gotta pee. And I will be back. So I'm gonna take a quick break, but I'll be back in a second. Okay, let's bring this back. There we go. I need to make a gone to tea back in 5 minutes little thing for the screen. All right. Like for instance, I'm working on the horns here, and horns have a sense of scratchiness to them, so I'm going to try to leave some of the scratchy line work in there while blurring some of it. On the right layer. I use the smudge tool quite a bit. I like the smudge tool. Because, I mean, of all of the tools in Photoshop, more than the oil-based pens and brushes that you can use, using the smudge tool gives me the closest feeling to what I do with oils on the canvas. Because a lot of times, as an oil painter, a lot of it is putting pigment onto the canvas, and one of the things that is beneficial about working with oils is you've got 4 to 7 days for the pigment to dry. So you put the oil paint on the canvas, and then over the next couple days, you can come back with dry brushes or even wet brushes if you need to kind of put a little bit more oil on it. But you can push the pigment into place with the dry brushes on like day 2 or day 3 of the oil drying process. And then you put oil in there if you want to extend it a little bit further. And then you kind of blend that into the next layer that you do the next week. So it's like with oils, it's like a weekly process. It's like get the pigment down, a couple days later, fine tune where you want the pigment to be. You know, towards the end, it's like kind of feather it off a little bit, and you sort of prepare the next layer, you know, to come up on it. So I try to replicate in Photoshop and in my digital painting as much of the canvas as I possibly can. So that's just a big deal for me, because it's a lot of my voice, a lot of my creative voice is coming from the techniques that I've developed on the canvas on how to express what I'm trying to say. You know, how to be able to get there and be able to do it in an efficient amount of time and still keep it consistent with, like, my voice. And I like blending the mediums. It's like, do I like digital or do I like analog oil painting better? I like blending the two of them together. I also like throwing the photography in there. So it's a lot of my artwork, especially something like this. This piece comes from a photograph that I took, where then I put it into Photoshop, and then I started doing digital painting on top of it. I don't know if I've got the original photo in here. Probably put the original photo in here. And then what I'll do is I have the means and methods in the studio to print this onto canvas, stretch it around stretchers, and then do a layer of oil paint on top of it. So it's a blending of photography, digital artwork, and oil painting. And then somewhere in there I create a recipe that sort of is a vessel for my creative voice that makes myself unique, and kind of like ingredients in a recipe for a drink or a special type of dessert or food. I have a certain pattern that I do it in that's unique to me, that people, like, as other artists, you try to figure out how other artists are doing certain things. So it's, you know, finding that little niche in the techniques that you can call your home, like being like a little shell that you can kind of crawl into and work from. But I'm really excited about the influence the Rocky Mountains are going to have with my work. And this is part of why I'm saying, is like, why I moved out here is really like I asked myself what I wanted for my career, my practice, my art, you know, and being able to express it. And I felt in Atlanta, though I had a very strong community that appreciates my artwork, it's just I feel very still underground there. And, you know, it's like I feel in Colorado like I'll be able to express myself a little bit better, a little clearer. Let's work on this ear. See, like what I'm saying is, this looks done. This looks done, but you come in here, this little area in the ear where this crackliness, which is fine and it works, but I want to clean it up a little. I want to try to clean it up a little bit. So gonna have to bring this brush down in size a little bit. I mean, I like it, but I just wanna. A lot of my work is that defines my voice is trying to blur the edges. I like to, or what I call blur the edges. I I like to leave hard edges for sharp things. And one of the things that I really did not like, and it took me a long time to get into digital painting, was a lot of it just looked cartoonish. It wasn't until, like here, let me just show you. Like, let's see. I don't want to make the coffee in there. I'm actually painting or drawing on the screen, and it's coming through the computer. So I have that analog connection. That analog is there. To me, a lot of the human quality of artwork comes from the analog aspect of it. That chaos that's in the system, and the artist learning how to deal with that chaos between what they're seeing with their minds and they're trying to get out with their brushes or their musical instruments or whatever medium they want to use to express themselves. It's that analog, that chaos that exists within the system that I think gives like that human quality to the artwork, which I feel I mean, you can say what you want about AI, but AI is all kind of starting to look the same, which genres kind of tend to do. And I think AI art is just going to be another genre, because as long as humans exist, people are going to want human artwork. But there's going to be people that want AI artwork. There's going to be AI that wants AI artwork. There's going to be AI that wants human artwork, In a way, I think the whole AI situation is preparing us for meeting ultimately space aliens. So, but what do I know? I'm not Elon Musk. But yeah, just I like to blur the edges. There we go. Blurring the edges. I know it's so subtle. It's just so subtle. But it just, now it feels like that ear has a sense of depth between it and it's being nestled up against that horn. Like in the sense of, that horn has evolved to be sort of like a megaphone for the ear. So like the ear and the horn are a symbiotic sort of evolutionary relationship in being able to keep the bighorn safe, be able to hear things better. It's just so intriguing how that happens, and that's one of the things that I enjoy about exploring when I'm working on a piece. And you get into it and you really see the structure of how this nature just came through multiple chaotic transformations to this being in the universe that is called a bighorn. and then it's by being able to explore it with my artwork, I get to understand how it is. I get to understand, why it is. It's like I get to understand the structure of it. Why did it form this way? And it's to me the like being an artist. Doing the artwork. It's like a way of studying. It's like reading a technical manual to understand how a machine works. All right, that's one side of it. That's one part of the understanding of it. The being able to go in there with, like, in a creative sense, like this, and exploring it this way, you get a whole nother perspective of it. It's just one of the reasons why I do what I do. I mean, I come through architecture, and a lot of it is just about understanding how everything fits together. You know? And I love it like this. I want this scratchiness to be over here, but not necessarily over here. These two lines need to be kind of worked out a little bit. See, so what I do is like meditation has become a big part of my practice of being able to maintain the creative state. And a lot of times when I get to do stuff like this, it's more it's meditative. I came up with the thought the other day that meditation is a way of scratching your brain. Since you can't get inside to scratch it, meditation is a way of using your thoughts to scratch the inside of your mind. And soothe it and work on yourself. Burn this all up. And a lot of it is trying to get into the space of not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about what I want it to be. I'm kind of mapping out what does it want to be. Yeah. See that's just coming in so much cleaner. A lot of times what I like to do when I have a little line work like this is keep one side of it sharp, which would be the edge that's casting the shadow, and then blur the other side of it so that you can see in which direction is. And these little tiny subtle things help really give a sense of depth to the lighting that's coming in there. Like some of these little kind of what I call relics that don't need to be there, like little. Yeah. Yep. I gotta clean the screen. Sometimes I've got little things on the screen, and I'm like, I gotta get this out. And then I'm trying to work it out with the stylus pen, and I'm like, oh wait, that's on the screen. I mean, a lot of this is just working on this as on a local level, and not necessarily thinking in terms of the whole image, but just how is it transitioning from this pixel to the other pixel? transitioning this dark part to the purple, pulling the purple down in here a little bit. Little tricks. Sometimes I just do this for hours. But yeah, it's it's what I'm trying to capture in this piece is when I took this photo, like I was surprised that these two bighorns were behind me because I didn't even hear them. And I turned around and they were a little bit off at a distance. You know, they were maybe about 100 feet, maybe. They were across a like 2-lane road, one way each direction, mountain road going up the side of a hill. They were up on a cliff, maybe about 20 feet, and they were just staring at me, kind of scoping me out. And they allowed me to take a photo. They take this photo of them, and you know, I'm really just trying to capture the feeling of that moment. You know, a lot of it, like a lot of what I do is trying to capture an experience that I've had and being able to portray that with the image. Blend in some of this color. Like I said, like what I'll do in here is maybe about 3 or 4 days ago, you can see a lot of the scratchy line work. It's like, okay, I just want this color here. I go through really quickly. I want this color here. I want this shade here. I want lightness here. And then I'll come back and just work it in. And then I'll just keep doing the process on a different layer. And the layers just keep building up. And then those layers give you a sense of depth. Ooh, let's fix this eye. Yeah, so this eye is a good example. Like that, but now I can kind of blur that in here. We're going to define. Oh, that's on another layer. Let's what layer is it on? There we go. It's on that layer. Let me get the feel for this eye. That eye's a lot better than what it was. Here we go. Really working that out. Yeah. I can definitely see this is, like I said, this is the first photograph that I took that I were trying to throw digital painting over the top of it. So it's an experiment in helping me define a new sort of area of my voice that I want to explore and bring in. Yeah, see, like right there. Let's go back a little bit. Let's pull it back. See, like, there's this edge here, and I want to kind of pull the ear forward and I want to push the horn back a little bit, so I gotta define the shadow a little bit better. So I'm just gonna come in here. And then let's go. See, that's working. It's like I did over on the other ear. I'm just trying to come in here. And again, like here, keeping the edge on one side and then blurring that other side. Bring that in. This is purple. I want to push that color up into this part of the horn. No, a lot of this is just a process. Like a lot of it is I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. I know what I want it to be. I see what I want in my head, and then it's just using the tools to just keep pushing it in that direction. See up here, what layer are you on? Yeah, there you are. Where the horn is hitting this body. I'm gonna pull this shadow down a little bit down here. Behind this ear now. Now, situation with the ear and the forehead and the horn behind it. Get a little bit darker back onto this bottom part of the forehead up a little bit. Doopy-doo. There. And making sure that the points line up. I want to get this one little tiny line is bugging me. Blur that in. The tip of the horn, get this tip. And then, okay, so like all these little tiny things, like cleaning this up. Like there we go, full pixels. That's down on the pixel level. underneath. There we go. That, see, I mean, for me, it just cleans it all up. There we go. Then once I clean all of this up, what I'll do is I'll go through and some of the layers that I feel like I can merge layers together to kind of start making it a little bit easier. Because then when you start adding layers upon layers upon layers, unless you have a way of being able to keep track of it, you can ultimately get lost in all of the different layers. You have to keep finding your way back. There. That's getting that bumpiness there on the horn. Love it. Okay, what time are we at? We are coming in for a landing. So very good. I did not work on this head. I'll work on this head tomorrow. This is just an example of, what digital painting is. I mean, a lot of the processes and techniques that you saw me do through most of this session is tedious work, no different than what you would do on the canvas. And, it's time consuming. So digital painting, though with digital painting, I have tools that made certain mundane things easier, like an undo key, but it also puts me in a situation where I can then take the image further. Because here's the thing, and every artist knows this, every creative knows this. There is an infinity in the creation. There's an infinity in the color, infinity in the detailing, infinity in the shadow, infinity in the light, infinity in the texturing. You can work on a piece forever. And the digital stuff, and where I'm hoping AI ultimately will lead to once all of the dust settles, is tools that are just allowing the artist to go further into that infinity in the piece that they're creating. So every new tool opens up a vast vista that you can explore in your practice and in your work and in your voice. And a lot of the tools that have come online are designed to keep the artist in the creative side of their mind, as opposed to going into having to deal with the logical side. Because there's so many times I get frustrated because I'm really deep into a certain detail on a piece, but then I gotta go do research, and I lose that connection for that day. And a lot of the tools are designed to help keep the creative deeper in the creative flow. So I will end on that note. I'm not going to go too far in discussing AI. I do that quite a bit. But you all have a great day, and